Before we go into all of those deals and the business, earlier we heard from Donald Trump giving a press conference in Doha. He said that he believes the US is close to a deal with Iran on its nuclear program.
Well, he did, and it's rather vague, in fact, what he's been saying, that the actual quote was, "We are sort of close to a deal," which leaves the door open to a lot of doubt about what that deal actually is. Now, this is just a few hours after Iran has been saying, in the form of a spokesperson for Ayatollah Khamenei, who is Iran's spiritual leader, that Iran would be willing to forego its nuclear enrichment program in exchange for the lifting of sanctions. Not completely, but to bring it down certainly below the level needed to create a nuclear weapon. Now, at the moment, Iran is enriching uranium to about 60%. That needs to go up to about 90% to be able to be used in a nuclear weapon. But under the 2015 nuclear agreement, which was signed by Barack Obama, of which Donald Trump pulled out later on, that level was due to be brought down to only 3.65%, which is just for civilian use only. So it appears there has been some progress with Iran. There have been a lot of pressure on the Iranian leadership from the United States. There have been talks taking place, all of this in contradiction with what Israel has been calling for, which is attacks against Iran's nuclear installations. So I think that this will be another feather in Donald Trump's cap, and certainly something that he will be hoping for as a result of this visit, because it comes hot on the heels of an agreement he says he signed with the Houthi rebels to stop attacks on shipping in the Red Sea, and also his plan to try to stop the setting up of Hezbollah bases in Syria following those talks with the new Syrian president. So a lot of movement on that front as well coming from the United States.
Well, foreign policy seems to be sort of overshadowed by the big economic deals that Trump's been making in the Middle East. We've just talked about those ones that were signed in Qatar.
Well, you mentioned $1.2 trillion. That is the figure being bantered about by the United States, by Donald Trump, of the deals that he's managed to sign so far since arriving in Saudi Arabia, then moving on to Qatar, moving on today to the United Arab Emirates, the three countries on that Middle Eastern tour. $600 billion in investment, including one of the largest ever purchases of US weapons. That was what was signed in Saudi Arabia. That deal for Boeing aeroplanes signed in Qatar, 210 Boeing aircraft. But there has been a scandal, a lot of raised eyebrows about this Qatari present of an aeroplane being given to the US president, which is estimated to be worth $400 million. That's 100 times the combined value of every presidential gift from foreign governments so far this century. And many in the United States saying this is definitely a conflict of interest between what the US should be standing up for, and that is not receiving presents in exchange for signing business deals. And also that poses the question about how this plane is going to be equipped afterwards. Will there be bugs on board to try to spy on what the US is doing? But Donald Trump has said he would be stupid to refuse this plane. He's complained about the state of Air Force One, which is now an old plane that's used by presidents to take them around the world. So that appears to be the present that Donald Trump will come back with. But of course, he also wants to sign deals for golf courses and for Trump Towers to be built, notably in Syria.
Well, Trump also met with the Syria's interim leader, Ahmed al-Sharaa, while he was in Saudi Arabia, a meeting that many are saying was unthinkable not so long ago.
Yeah, I mean, you go back just a few weeks and you think this is just something that you would never see. A man who was linked to Al-Qaeda as one of their leaders was wanted by the United States on terrorism charges, had a $10 million bounty on his head, and had spent 5 years in a US jail. And what do we see now? We see the US president shaking hands with him, describing him as a good guy. During those talks in Riyadh, next to Mohammed bin Salman, the de facto leader of Saudi Arabia. So it's all good news for Syria, lifting of sanctions. That means that money will now be flowing back into the country, and that the banking system will be able to get back on its feet. Remember that since the uprising of 2011, there have been sanctions on Syria that have more or less crippled the country and pushed 90% of the country's population below the poverty line. I think there's widespread celebrations that those sanctions from the United States are now going to be lifted, and Syria may at last be able to find some new friends in the world. world. It's felt pretty isolated, but it's not just a one-way ticket. The United States is making sure that Syria strikes up friendly relations with Israel. That's one of the conditions, and I think the other condition is also that there will be no contact between Syria, the new Syrian leadership, and Iran. Syria being used as a basis for Iranian proxies, for example, like Hezbollah. So it is a two-way a deal, but something also that Donald Trump will be able to take home, saying, look, I finally signed this deal with Syria to give Syria a new lease of life after so many years of sanctions.